Oh man, two people already in here. Nice. All right. Wait for some more people to join and we'll get back to the Champions League. It's been a while for the Champions League. When was the last Champions League played? Was it at mid-December, if I'm not mistaken? December 10th and 11th, 11th and 12th, one of those two. All righty. Wait till we get double. No, we'll see if we get double digits in here. Okay, let me move this. Five. Okay. Yo, what's up? All right. Let's see if we can get to double digits before we get started here. Ohio State is completely blowing out Notre Dame right now, which is unfortunate because I hate Ohio State. All right, we're up to 6. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get to 10, so we can kind of just open up here and get started. It is late after all. All right, so Champions League match week 7. There's a lot going on. Hang on one second. There's quite a bit going on here. Let's just do a quick overview of the table really quick. I think that would be a nice start before we get in here because there's a lot going on with this league format. We'll obviously hit the big matches. We'll make sure that we hit all of those. But so I'm just going to run through the table really quick. As it stands, Liverpool's in first with 18 points. They've won every match. Barcelona's in second with 15 points, and it's Arsenal with 13. Leverkusen, Villa, Inter, Brest, Lille all have 13. Dortmund, Bayern, Atletico, AC Milan all have 12. So that's the cutoff for teams that could finish potentially at the top of it, right? Liverpool has pretty much got that locked up. They're minus 1,000 to finish top of the league phase, so it's pretty much over. Now that the one seeds, I don't know if it's really going to matter as it stands. So, but again, and then it gets interesting from there. Then you have Atalanta, Juventus are both at 11 points. Benfica, Monaco, Sporting, Feyenoord, Club Brugge are all at 10. Real Madrid and Celtic are at 9. City, PSV, and Zagreb are all at 8. And then PSG and Stuttgart at 7. And that's basically it. Then the other teams, 4. The other teams that are 4 and below pretty much don't have a chance. Yeah, so that's where it stands right now. Obviously, the Man City PSG match is going to be the headliner. So, we can just start. We want to start there, or do we want to try to do this in chronological order? I know that match is on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, but we can obviously start there if that's where people want to start. I would say that's the one that is the most interesting of any of them. Yeah, the other ones. I mean, there's some kind of interesting ones, but I mean, that's just the clear headliner. So, why don't we just start there? So PSG and Man City. It's a fascinating match in the aspect of this. I don't really know what I'm not saying I don't really know. I think I know what the best option is for what Manchester City can do out of possession. This kind of leads me. Yeah, the chat is going. I like over 3 here at minus 111 is my. I think the total is way too low here because I have yet to see Pep Guardiola in these big type of matches against teams that can build up well, that can play through them. I still have yet to see him play passively. He's still playing incredibly aggressive, whether it be a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4 or even a 4-1-4-1. The space in between the lines and his defensive line is incredibly high. It's crazy. And I wrote this up in the, in my Substack Best Bets article today. The one match that I kept thinking about when approaching this one was Brighton against Manchester City. And that was a while ago. But what Brighton was able to do against them, Brighton obviously initially will build out of the back. They're not just going to send the ball long from goal kicks. They typically do like to build out of the back. And, it's the goal of what Brighton wants to do. And this is kind of a side tangent, but the goal of what Brighton wants to do is to overload the last line of defense and to play a lot of direct balls up there. And what they did to Manchester City was they were constantly getting 5 or 6 guys on the back line, and they were getting 2v1s out wide. And I included a screenshot from that match. And it's how they kind of opened Manchester City up. Pep's always going to play a back 4. He will not go to a back 5. And I'm just imagining it, and I'm like, okay, I know, PSG obviously will initially build out of the back. They're a 2-3-5 build-up type of team. Obviously Enrique, we know about him and how much he values possession and how he really wants to build through the middle. But I just kept imagining Barcola and Dembele and the fullbacks getting in 2v1s against Gvardiol and Kyle Walker. Well, I guess not Kyle Walker, but whoever might be out there on the right. And I'm just sitting here being like, oh my gosh, like they're just going to absolutely rip them apart over and over again out wide. It's crazy. And so I struggle to see how City's actually going to stop PSG. Like, even if PSG does decide to build out and they decide to play a lot of short passes, City's a terrible press. We've known this for a very long time. And it doesn't really, they can put up good performances against Leicester City and West Ham and Ipswich, and then they'll just turn around and just get belted by any decent offensive team or any team that can. For God's sakes, Brentford was building out of the back with so much success and with regularity against City for the first 40 minutes of that match. City's press is terrible. They're late to everything. They're old and they're slow. So I have yet to see Pep Guardiola just go straight low block and let's just sit back because we can't defend it. So I don't really see a scenario where how PSG doesn't just rip them apart. The flip side of it, though, is PSG is a team that likes to press high. City is still a very good build-up team. For all the problems they've had out of possession, they're still building up with pretty decent success. And PSG, their pressing numbers are okay in Ligue 1, but when you get to the Champions League and you face really good build-up teams and not just teams that are just going to send the ball long every single time, I want to quickly go through some of the bigger matches that PSG has had so far in the Champions League, right? Because they've struggled. They obviously beat Girona out of the gates, then they went to Arsenal. Arsenal nullified them completely. 0.4 expected goals, didn't score. They had a good performances against Atletico and PSV. PSV, a very aggressive, high-pressing team. Atletico, very passive. Then they played Bayern Munich, and Bayern destroyed them. 2.4 expected goals for Bayern in that match. PSG can't really defend that well on a low defensive block. It looks like Marquinhos is going to be out maybe for this match. So yeah, I love the over. I love over 3 here. I have over 4 goals projected for this match. PSG is averaging 2.6 expected goals per 90 in Ligue 1 and over 1.8 in the Champions League. City, the defensive issues we've known about them for a long time, but now we have a pretty big sample size. Since November 1st, in the Premier League and in the Champions League, they are allowing 1.99 expected goals per 90 minutes. That is how bad their defense is. So I think this is a very back and forth match. If this match ends 0-0, whatever, I think at the end of the day, when you walk away from this match, even if 3 doesn't hit, I think you're going to walk away and be saying, man, that match really should have gone over. So, Marquinhos is likely back. Okay. That's okay. He's still not fit. I don't think PSG really has a physical enough center back to be able to deal with Haaland on direct balls. So, especially defending him in the box as well. So yeah, I like over here quite a bit. All right. So that's the headliner match. Let's go back and let's go chronological order from Tuesday on, because I'd say outside of that match, unless anybody says anything else, I don't think there are really any other headliners outside of that one. So let's go back to Tuesday. I guess you could say Atletico Leverkusen is kind of a headliner. But we'll do. Should we do Atleti? Yeah, we'll do Atleti. All right, Atleti versus Leverkusen. I like Atletico here. I've said this many times, but the two ways to play Leverkusen are to either press them high, man-to-man, go crazy on them, or to just sit back in a low defensive block. And that's exactly what Atletico is going to do. And they are probably, outside of maybe Juventus, the best low block defensive team in all of Europe. Simeone has kind of, I've said he's gone back to his 4-4-2, but they'll really just morph into a lot of different formations out of possession, given whatever the situation is. You'll even see them go 6-2-2 at some points when they really just want to park the bus, right? He never really wants to lose his identity out of possession. They're not going to press Leverkusen high. And one thing I wrote up in my Substack preview is that, a good way I like to evaluate teams like Leverkusen, who are traditionally playing a lot of low block type teams, it's final third of box entry conversion rate. You guys have probably heard me say it a lot of times. I think it's very important for teams like Leverkusen, who have a very high number of final third entries, because teams sit off them and because teams allow them to enter the final third. How effective are they at getting in the penalty area? This season, they're at 24%, which is dead last in the Bundesliga. Last season, they were at 29%. So the effectiveness of them being able to actually break down low defensive blocks has gone down a little bit. Atletico is going to close off the middle. They're going to force Leverkusen to play the ball out wide. So I would hope and expect that Patrick Schick plays in this match. He probably should, if that's going to be the case. Atletico, in terms of percentage of crosses allowed in their penalty area, has been around average of La Liga. And traditionally, Leverkusen will build out anywhere. They'll get overloads in really any part of the field, and they're okay sending crosses. I think they have the fifth most crosses completed into the penalty area here for the Bundesliga. So they're definitely not a team that's just like, we're playing through the middle and that's the only place we're going. So I think you will see Leverkusen send a lot of crosses. But the flip side, though, is I think Atletico in possession is the type of team that can give Leverkusen a lot of problems, because Atletico is very versatile. I watched a video from Football Meta, which is a good channel if you're looking for like tactical type stuff, basically breaking down what Atletico does. And it's really hard to like explain it, because it's just like it's just free flowing football. Like it's like positionless football almost. A lot of relationism in that aspect of trying to obviously overload certain phases of build up. But the core identity of Atletico, of being a transitional team, a team that will play the ball long and win a lot of second balls, be physical. It's Football Meta is the channel. That does give Atletico, I think, an advantage here. And the other thing is, the one weakness that Xabi Alonso's had with Leverkusen, this dates all the way back to last season, the start of last season. They've been terrible defending set pieces. Last season, they were 18th in XG per set piece allowed. This season, they're 16th in XG per set piece allowed. They've always had trouble defending them. Atletico's always been good on set pieces. This season, they're second in XG per set piece in La Liga. With them being at home, if you look at the underlying metrics for these two teams, Atletico in La Liga is at plus 0.93. Leverkusen is at plus 0.82 in the Bundesliga. La Liga and Bundesliga, there's not much difference when you rate those leagues in terms of UEFA coefficients, total squad transfer market value. There's just not a lot of differences between those two leagues. So if these two teams are equal, why is this a pick'em with Atletico getting home field advantage? So I like Atletico. Draw no bet. Minus 143 is what I have it at right now. So I think this is a good spot for Atletico. Have a future on Atletico to finish top 8. So this would be an important 3 points for them to potentially. I think their prospects of winning the Champions League is definitely up there. Okay, so let's go to. Here's what we'll do. I'll go through some of the bets that I have. I'll go through some of the bigger matches. And if you have a match, do I think Leverkusen scores? I have Leverkusen projected for. Let me look at it real quick. Make sure I got my numbers in order here. I have Leverkusen projected for 0.85 goals in this match. So they could score one. I don't know. It's going to be tough. Obviously, they could get on end on some of these crosses, right? It's just if that's what we're relying on. So if you think Leverkusen scores, you might as well just do Patrick Schick anytime goal scorer. If he starts, obviously, I would wait and see if he starts because Xabi Alonso's been a little bit. He may try to just say, you know what, let's do a 5-man overload in the middle and let's try to bring on a striker that can drop deep and, do that type of thing. But Patrick Schick really should start in this match. All right, so next up I'm going to do Monaco and Aston Villa. And then I'll hit some of the bets that I have here for the Champions League. And if there's a specific match that you want to talk about, put it in the chat. Like somebody's already put Juventus money line here in the chat. After I'm done with Aston Villa and Monaco and Aston Villa, I will hit the Juve match here. And and we'll just kind of go through like that. And then I'll hit some of the bets that I have on Wednesday. I haven't really gone through the Europa League yet, so I apologize, everybody. Maybe I'll make, what I'll do just for you guys. I'll make my Europa League best bets article on my Substack free for everybody this week so that everybody can have it. Because I just haven't had time to go through it yet. One more thing before I move on. On my Substack, and this will be free to everybody for the next 2 days. If you have seen me do my Premier League notes articles where I just go through every single match and just kind of give my thoughts. There's no betting advice, just kind of like going through, just giving my thoughts on how I think the match will play out. I am doing basically the exact same thing for all 18 Champions League matches. So late tonight, I have like 3 matches left to go. Late tonight, I'll be putting out Tuesday's notes. And then after the matches are over, or it might be, it just depends on how tomorrow goes. I will put out Wednesday's notes. So essentially you'll get, if you want my thoughts on a match, you can have them in writing with all the data visualizations and everything like that, the screenshots and all that different stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm making that free for everybody in the next 2 days. It'll probably go behind a paywall once we reach the knockout stage, but for the next 2 rounds, I will do that. I'll make it free for everybody. And same thing for the Premier League. I'll make it free for everybody for a little while. Okay, so Monaco, Aston Villa. Lines come down, and I don't really know why. Monaco was plus 115. Projections update will be Tuesday morning. Monaco was plus 115. Now they're plus 150, and I don't really know why because Zakaria and Singo are both probably going to play in this match based on the last update that I saw, which is obviously important for Monaco. They didn't play against Montpellier, and they lost 2-1. So I would assume that basically it's because Aston Villa has obviously been in good form, although they kind of luck boxed themselves a win at Arsenal. That one hurt pretty badly on Saturday. But I think this is a really good matchup here for Monaco. We know, Aston Villa is a very predictable build-up team. They, like to build up with 3-man triangles out wide. They can a lot of times get trapped out there. And there's basically 2 schools of thought of what they like to do out of there. They'll either try to play a lot of short passes, play it through, and try to play it back towards the middle, or they'll send it up to the striker dropping deep. Or the third option is if it doesn't work, play it back to the goalkeeper, swing it to the other side, and let's start over and let's try to build up through there. But that's generally the principles that they like to do. And against teams that aren't elite in terms of man-to-man high pressing, they can play through them. And but I think Monaco is in that category of an elite high pressing team. Number one in France in passes per defensive action. They will go at you in man-to-man, and they like to push teams to the wide sides of the field. So it's going to play right into exactly what Monaco wants to do. And I really have a hard time seeing how Aston Villa is just going to consistently build out through them, especially on the road where they've been terrible under Unai Emery. I put this in my article. Aston Villa, since Unai Emery took over, 50 Premier League matches away from home, they have a minus 19.56 expected goal differential. Not good. Not good. Not good away from home. They're very good at Villa Park. Away from home, it's been a much different story. And the other aspect of this, if we flip it to the other side, Aston Villa playing their high line, who are the teams that cause them a lot of problems? Well, teams that can play balls in behind, especially through balls. Villa, let me check the latest. Let me double check that. If they're missing both their starting center backs. I'm not sure if that's true. Let me look that up. I know Diego is off. He's leaving for. It looks like just Pau Torres is out right now. So they'll start Tyrone Mings. Yeah, Diego Carlos is not really a starter. He's also off to Fenerbahce, I believe. So they'll start Konsa and they'll start Tyrone Mings, and they'll be perfect. They'll be fine. But in any case, teams that can play those through balls or play balls in behind always give Aston Villa problems when they're playing a high line. And one thing that when I was researching this that I found very interesting when it comes to Aston Villa, from an even game state, or even just playing with like a 1-goal lead, they've actually been pretty decent defensively. From an even game state, they're only allowing 1 expected goal per 90 minutes. When they are losing, when they're down, and they have to come out and they have to press and they have to be more aggressive out of possession, they don't just get to sit back in that mid block, they're allowing about 1.85 expected goals per 90 minutes. So if Monaco can get a lead here, obviously they're at home. They're in front of the home crowd, although it's not that big of a crowd. I think they have a really good shot of holding on to that lead and continuing to apply pressure and continue causing Aston Villa problems. So at a pick 'em, I don't agree with that. I love this. I mean, most of you probably know this by now, but I love this Monaco team. They're amazing. I really like them a lot. I know they've had a little bit of a bump in the road the last couple matches against Nantes and Montpellier, but this team is really good, and I think this is one of those matchups that's really perfect for them. All right, so let's move on. Somebody wanted to know Juventus money line. Yeah, I'm projecting value on Juventus money line. Gosh, it scares the living crap out of me, if I'm being honest. Oh my goodness. They're taking on Brugge, for those who don't know. So Brugge has been in really good form lately. They actually haven't lost since they lost 3-1 to AC Milan. They've been really dominant in the Belgian Pro League this season. Scott Olsen's now, but yeah, like you said, Scott Olsen is now off to Wolfsburg. He is their leading goal scorer this season with 8 goals. So that's kind of a problem in and of itself. And I mean, listen, from what I've watched with Bruges so far in the Champions League, they can be a pretty dangerous transition team. They have some pretty fast guys who can get in behind. They obviously have, they're a very young team. But can they break down Juventus' little block? I don't think so. I mean, if Mata just decides to sit back, I don't think there is a real scenario where Bruges is going to just like rack up, 1.5 or 2 expected goals against them. They may do that, but it might take them 35 shots. But gosh, I'll be honest, guys. I don't know if Thiago Motta has made Juventus any better than they were under Allegri, if that makes any sense, right? So under Allegri, essentially they were a little bit more, direct, way more transitional, way more counterattacking. Under Motta, they're very slow in their build-up, obviously always trying to overload every phase, which is great. Final third end product has been a little bit of a problem for Juventus this season. They're only averaging 1.26 non-penalty expected goals in Serie A. In the Champions League, it's been a little bit worse. They're only averaging 1.08. So that's where I kind of get scared with this on the road. Man, it's just, hang on, let me go back to their, if I'm remembering it correctly, yeah, their road form has been really weird. Whether it be away from home or away from home in the Champions League or away from home in Serie A. Like they've drawn Torino and Atalanta recently. Both matches ended like pretty dead on in terms of expected goals. They beat Monza, but again, expected goals is pretty close. Away from home in the Champions League, they've drawn Aston Villa 0-0, where they're basically just trying to play for the 0-0 draw. They drew Lille 1-1 in an incredibly boring match. They somehow beat Leipzig with 10 men. And other than that, I mean, listen, they've only lost 2 matches all season. They lost to Milan in the Italian Super Cup, and then Stuttgart 1-0 at the buzzer, which they deserve to lose to in the Champions League. Other than that, they haven't lost. So I'll put it this way. If I could get Juventus at a draw no bet price, I would take that in a heartbeat. Laying a number on the road is troubling. Yeah. So I'm seeing 1-1 exact score in the chat. Honestly, 0-0. I think what's 0-0? 0-0 might be in place. Let's see. And I'm pretty sure Bruges, if I'm not mistaken, they've been okay at home in the Champions League. They beat Sporting 2-1. They beat Aston Villa 1. That Aston Villa one though was on a fluke. Was that a fluke handball or something? I can't remember. And then they should have beat. No, not saying should have beat, but they were hammering Dortmund for a period of time to open up the Champions League. Double chance and under 3.5 is -140 for Juventus. That's not. I don't hate that. Yeah. So I'll just say this: if I could get. Yeah. It's just, I think you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm showing value in Juventus. I probably should play them. Probably should be playing the under as well. I'm just a little scared. So, Bruges had they hammered Dortmund right from the beginning. And then Dortmund kind of settled the match, and Dortmund scored like 3 really late goals. I remember because I had over 2.5, and it was like one of the luckiest wins I've had this Champions League. I've had a lot of lucky wins though. Okay, so yeah, I would, if I were to steer anybody, I think Nolan put it in the chat. Juventus double chance and under 3.5 is -140. If you want to play something in the match, I think that's probably your best way to go. Here, why don't I just look that up really quick? Because I have my Poison distribution, which has like the percentages for all the different score probabilities. Which one's Juventus? Crap, I should really number these. We'll get to Benfica next. Somebody ridiculed. Okay, here's a fun side story about Benfica. When Wondergoal was still around, people would give reviews on whether it be Apple or Spotify. I guess Apple, you could actually see the reviews, and every time we'd say Benfica, because obviously I'm really good at pronouncing names, and some guy gave us a 1-star review and just basically said it's Benfica, not Benfica. So I think of that guy every single time I say Benfica. I try to pronounce names correctly. I just don't always do it. All right, 1 second. I'm just looking up what I have for that double chance of, the Juventus plus 0.5 and under 3.5 at -140. I was just checking to see what I actually have that projected at, but I got to go into my my Poisson distribution, which there it is. Okay, so 335. This is great. This is like I'm Francesing this right now. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay. So Juventus. So all of those. And basically all of these, right? No. All of that. Oh, this is going to take forever. All right, hang on. Yeah, I have that at about 72%. So minus 140 is definitely good. Okay. Benfica, Barcelona. I have a little value on Benfica. Just not the biggest fan of Bruno Lage, if we're all being honest here. The one match that I kind of pointed to when I was really looking into them was the match against, that's at least the similarity of an opponent, was their match against Bayern Munich earlier in the Champions League. And they just kind of got dominated, and they really had no root of playing out against Bayern. So what they did in that match, so typically, Bruno Lage he played a lot of different formations when he was at Wolves. Traditionally, he's been 4-3-3 here with Benfica. But in that match against Bayern Munich, they played a back five. They went 5-3-2 against Bayern because obviously Bayern is so good at overloading the last line of defense with all the attackers that they have, whether it be 5 or even 6 guys. So they kind of went 5-3-2. They changed things up. And I would not be shocked to see them do that here again against Barcelona. Di Maria questionable obviously does not help Benfica's case. But Bayern just suffocated them. They had no root of playing out against them. I mean, for the match, they lost 1-0. They took one shot. Now the question is Barcelona good enough out of possession and good enough with their counter pressing to do the similar type of thing that Bayern did? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Barcelona is just, I don't care what anybody says. That high line leaves them vulnerable all the time. And one of the ways that they can be really vulnerable, and this is basically how Getafe scored against them over the weekend, is what they are able to do is if teams are able to play balls into the wide areas, essentially to where the fullbacks are, if the fullbacks can go up a little bit higher, they have a 2v1 versus Barcelona's fullbacks. And if that fullback gets beat, then the entire defensive line has to shift over to cover the ball, right? Like when the ball's going down there. And what that leaves you susceptible to once teams get into the final third, those crosses in the back post can really cause a lot of problems. And I've watched enough film on Benfica that they are able to do that. They like to overload to isolate, get free runners and switch the play, which can definitely give Barcelona a lot of problems here. Again, I'm just really not the biggest fan of Bruno Lage. Never been, especially during his time at Wolves. They've held over 50% possession in every single Portuguese Premier Liga match this season. So now defensively, I think that there is a somewhat of a decent shot they could keep Barcelona out here. But Barcelona is such a difficult team to defend. They're so good with their central overloads, and especially when they lose the ball centrally, they're able to counter press you. It's very difficult. I know Barcelona's going through a bad run lately. I'm not really confident that Benfica is the team just to say like, oh yeah, they're going to exploit them. Oh yeah, they're just going to play balls in behind over and over again. So I'm passing on the match. So yeah, I'm just passing. I do show a little bit of value on Benfica. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that they are in. They're in second place in Portugal right now. Their underlying numbers they're good, right? Plus 1.31 expected goal differential per 90 minutes. That's good. You should be dominating in a league like that, which is great. But then you venture over to their Champions League matches. They obviously had they routed Atletico 4-0, which is great. And they beat Monaco 3-2, which is also great. Then you look at they lose 3-1 to Feyenoord. They barely outplay Red Star Belgrade on the road. They get completely dominated, like I said, by Bayern Munich, and then they play just a nothing match with Bologna. So I don't know. It's a very difficult situation, or difficult match, I think, to actually play anything. So I'm passing on it. All right. Before I move on, let's see. I think what else did I have on? I think I had one more. Oh yeah. The other match I had a bet on Tuesday. Yeah, I have Bologna plus a half here at -138. Now, let's be honest. The reason why this why the price is what it is because Bologna is basically dead. Technically, there is a mathematical way they could potentially get to spot 24, but essentially it would take a miracle. So technically they're still alive. So I think what you're seeing is kind of a motivation line here, which if anybody, I'm sure everybody, if you bet soccer enough, motivation lines when we get to relegation time is one of my favorite times to bet, when we get these just garbage teams that are no good and they get inflated because they have to win and the other team has nothing to play for. It's always a fun time of year, but I digress. So I like Bologna quite a bit here. I mean, Dortmund is obviously going through a pretty bad run. If you've been listening to me or Anthony or anybody who's been paying attention for a while, Dortmund stinks, and they've stunk for a long time. It doesn't matter if they went to the Champions League final last year. They relatively were pretty awful on their way to get there. Not awful, but they were incredibly fortunate to get there. And this season, really what the problem is, their press isn't hitting home at a very high rate. Teams have been able to play through them, and they've just been getting killed in transition. Now, you may think of Vincenzo Italiano as I'll get to their build-up in a second. Now, you may think of Vincenzo Italiano as a typical build-up type of guy, and really what they struggle with more than anything, it's just teams that sit in low blocks. They see so many low blocks in Serie A, and they just, whether him at Fiorentina or now at Bologna, he just doesn't have a final third end product. They always settle for just low quality efforts. It's been the case for him for a long time, and that's why I'm not a big fan of him. But in this scenario here, if you can get through Dortmund's first couple phases, and Bologna is very fluid in their build-up. They'll use a couple different formations. They'll interchange positions, and they'll make it very difficult to defend if you want to try to go man-to-man. I think if Dortmund is not able to hit home with their press, I think Bologna is going to create those mini transition opportunities, and I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. Dortmund's build-up, Christian, you're right. Dortmund has been very sloppy in build-up, and they've been sloppy for 2 years now. They were sloppy under Terzic, then now they've still been sloppy under Sahin. And the reason for that is because if they face any decent man-to-man pressing team, they just don't really have outlets. Like they're not a team that can just build like short passes, quick passes like through consistently. And the example I gave, and if you want to go look at it tonight, just go watch the first 30 seconds against Leverkusen. Leverkusen came out, pressed them high man-to-man, trapped them in the right corner, poor clearance, 2 passes, goal. Italiano has transformed Bologna. Last season, they were a low defensive block team. Now they are a high pressing team. They're number 1 in pass per defensive action in Serie A. They're number 1 in turning opponents over in dangerous areas. They're a pretty decent pressing team. Where you can hurt them is if you beat the press and you can get them going in transition. They're dead last in final third of box entry conversion rates. So that's the worry here with Bologna. If there is, if you're asking what the worry is, but I think the reward of turning Dortmund over high far outweighs the risk of Dortmund hitting them in transition. So I actually have Bologna projected as a favorite here. I think it's just honestly it's a motivation line, and I don't agree with that. I think you'll see Bologna turn. I mean, it's the Champions League, right? They're not going to be in the Champions League next year. Why wouldn't these players actually turn up and try and play hard, right? Maybe the final week when it's like official and they're out of it, yeah, they might not turn up. But here, I think is a good spot for them to to turn up. I was just going to look up one thing. Because, I mean, listen, they are coming off drawing Inter 2-2. I know they were kind of outplayed a little bit. They were pretty good against Roma at home in a 2-2 draw. Roma got a late penalty other than that, and then rebounded nicely after an early goal against Monza over the weekend. So, yeah, Bologna plus a half. So those are the 3 bets for Tuesday. Are there any other matches people want to talk about on Tuesday? Do we want to talk about Liverpool and Lille? Let's talk about Liverpool and Lille. Lille's on what, a 22-match unbeaten run under Janiso, if that's how you pronounce his name. Does that end here? Does that end here at Anfield? Probably, I would say. Here's my worry for Lille out of possession on what could go wrong for them. So they typically like to play 4-4-2 or 4-2-4 out of possession. It's usually a mid-block with a very high defensive line trying to compact the space and not allowing teams to play through the middle. So Janice is very similar to manager to De Zerbi in that aspect. Yeah, should have lost to Nice. Nice had, 3 expected goals over the weekend? And that's a good example, Antoine, because, I didn't watch the match, but I assume if you go watch the highlights, I bet you're going to see a lot of direct balls from Nice. And I'm guessing you're probably going to see them playing a lot of balls over the top, which is something Liverpool is obviously very good at. Lille will press teams high if they feel like they can, win the ball, but it's essentially a mid-block. And when you play a high line and, if especially a team like Liverpool, giving them time and space on the ball to play those direct balls up to the forwards, that's a difficult matchup for Lille. Another thing that Liverpool was doing against Brentford, they sent in a lot of crosses against Brentford, which is not surprising. But they're getting 3v3s out wide. And while that's not an overload, they are able to get Salah at least in 1v1s. And not only the damage he can do from a shot perspective, but the way he's able to cross and create chances for others, that's generally a good thing. It's kind of the same principles of what Arsenal tries to do with Saka, where it's just get the ball on the right side of the pitch and just do whatever you can to at least get your best player in a 1v1. And if they do that here against, excuse me, I almost threw up. Excuse me. If they're able to do that here against Lille, I think they're going to be very, very successful. Now, the flip side is, okay, so Lille in possession. Lille's pretty dang good in possession. Lille's obviously overperformed. You can go through all their defensive metrics, especially here in the Champions League. They've been overperforming quite drastically. But in possession, they have a lot of variability and they have a lot of versatility in what they can actually do. So, they will typically build up in a 4-2-4-ish type of formation. It usually transitions to a 4-3-3 once they enter the opponent's final third. Triangle midfield to try and create a quick 3-man overload against a team like Liverpool that would be playing a 4-2-4, trying to create that little numerical advantage right there. But they also are able to drop strikers deep. Jonathan David does a really good job. So is the number 10 of dropping deep and build up to either pull center backs out of position and create passing lanes for direct balls over the top, because Lille's not afraid to go deep. They're not afraid to play direct balls over the top if Liverpool decides to go man-to-man and press them high. So it's a very interesting matchup to see, what kind of happens, what plays out. I don't really have a pick for this match. I was looking through my projections. I have Liverpool at minus 460. I have the total at 2.9. So I guess you could make a case, the under 3.5, I believe, has came down quite a bit from where it opened. Let's see. Yeah, I think under 3.5 has came down a little bit since it opened, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, now under 3.5 is like minus 150. So I'm passing on this match. I think it's a fascinating tactical matchup, though. People are going to point to and they'll say, well, Lille, they upset Atletico Madrid. They've upset Real Madrid. Like, this team is dangerous. They conceded 4.5 expected goals and only 1 goal against those two teams. They got dominated both those matches. So, I think, and then the other aspect of Liverpool is like, okay, a win here basically, not totally, basically clinches first place, right? And who does Liverpool have coming up the weekend? And they have Ipswich Town on the weekend. So I would imagine Liverpool takes this match very seriously and tries to secure off that first. Do I think Bologna's price is going to go up before kickoff? We'll see. There might be some market resistance. I have a really hard time seeing how Dortmund gets bet to like -110. I mean, they were -110, and they've gotten, so there's been some resistance already on Bologna. So I would imagine Bologna would probably come back even more. I bet you could probably see it being closer to like Dortmund +125 by kickoff would be my guess. So yeah, it does. It comes in every game. But they suck. So, the thing is like if people are actually shocked that Dortmund's 10th in the Bundesliga table, like, have you watched them this season? They suck. It'd be hilarious. Erik ten Hag to Dortmund would be the funniest thing I've ever seen. Taking a manager who turned Manchester United into like the worst transition defense of all time, picking up a team that can't defend in transition, has no ball stopping in the middle. It's like a repeat of United. It'd be so funny. I would love it. He's also great in press conferences. We need him back in some aspects. Like he's one of those guys that's like, I'm never wrong and always gets agitated. I love those managers. And by the way, I know Amorim said in his press conference that we need to wait, Notre Dame did? You're joking, Nolan. It was 31-7 last time I saw. You're joking. Do I have to turn it on? Oh my gosh, it's 31-21. Oh my gosh, they just got a safety? Okay, hang on. I'll keep talking. I gotta turn the national title game on next to me. Sorry for anybody who's in Europe who's like, what are you talking about? It's college football national championship. I gotta turn it on now. It's a watch along. should I put that in? Oh, that'd be so great. Ryan Day choke job. I hate Ohio State. I really do. Yeah, let me turn the volume down. Until my YouTube does get bad, like they'll figure it out. All right. Ohio State ball, 4:10 left. Okay. No, you don't have to derail anything. I had turned off the game because I thought it was over. I was trying to focus on this. Anyway, Erik ten Hag Dortmund, I think is what we were talking about. It would be hilarious. I would love it so much. But Amorim said that this is the worst United team and they just need to accept it. I don't agree with that. I thought Erik ten Hag's team last year was way, way worse than this version of United is. At least Amorim's actually establishing some good tactical principles. They just suck in the final third. There's really no other way to say it, and they just make bonehead errors. Like, I think that there's a chance that United gets better and gets to be like the 6th best team under Amorim, but like that's the peak that they're at right now. So Ryan Day, Chip Kelly prevent offense. That's not like Chip Kelly, right? I feel like Ten Hag would be terrible. I mean, he'd beat up on the bad teams, but anytime he'd play Bayern or anytime he played Bayern or Leverkusen, they would just destroy him. Oh my gosh. Okay, 2nd and 7 here. This is going to be a watch. People in Europe are rewatching this are just going to be like, shut up. No one cares about college football. It's first down Ohio State. That's Penn State in bounds. That's a good big play right there. This would be a hilarious choke job by Ohio State, though. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, we'll do Manchester United talk for the next live stream. Which who did United have? I thought it was somebody juicy. Feels like every week United's got somebody juicy. Even if they're playing Southampton, I'm like, oh my gosh, they might lose. They got Fulham on the road. Well, first they got to play Europa League against Rangers on Thursday. They're going to lose that one too. Okay, so any others on Tuesday that people want to talk about? We've already hit Monaco, Villa. We've already hit Atletico, Leverkusen. We've hit Benfica, Barcelona. We've hit Bologna, Dortmund. We've hit Brugge and Juventus, and we've hit Liverpool and Lille. I think it's time to move on. I don't think any other matches really matter that much. All right. We've already done PSG and Man City. Where do we want to start here on Wednesday? There's really, other than PSG and Man City, there's really not a headliner match. I have two bets or one other bet for Wednesday, and that's basically it. So I'm going to let you guys kind of drive the conversation here. Who do you want to start? Real Madrid. This total's high. I'll just say that. But I was looking this up today. Let me get his name right. This is what worries me. I was looking at it and I was like, Real Madrid a total of 4. You don't see 4s very often. When you do see them, it's typically with like Bayern Munich playing somebody, and they're like a 3.5 point favorite, or 3.5 goal favorite. I almost said points. Sorry, I'm watching football at the same time. Talking football, watching football. How about that? Let me get his name right. So Salzburg. Jurgen Klopp's buddy, Pep Linders, has been fired from Salzburg. And they've been on a break. They've been on a winter break for over a month now. And Salzburg hired Thomas Letch. Lettish, I think his name is Lettish. Kind of looks like Anthony Taylor, the referee in the Premier League, bald guy. Anyway, previously, the manager of Bochum last year, who was, my God, they were terrible. They were terrible defensively. Now, he originally was a coach at Salzburg in the youth system about a decade ago, or more than a decade ago. So he has some familiarity with the Red Bull system and what they want to do. I just don't know what they're going to do. Like, I know what the Red Bull principles are, right? It's obviously, a lot of high pressing, 4-2-2-2, vertical football, hit teams quickly and transition through the middle. Like that's the Red Bull principles. Do they really do that here against Real Madrid? Right? Does he, since he has a month to train, does he decide to just figure out some type of low defensive block and try to keep them out? I was gonna look it up. I swear they played a friendly. I think they had a friendly on their schedule against Bayern. And I want to see I forgot to look up what the score of that friendly was. Oh. That's 23. So Bayern played Salzburg in a friendly on January 6th, 5th, 6th. And they beat them 6-0. So it's not ideal. That's not ideal, and that's not a very good. It's not a very good thing, obviously, if you're going to go play Real Madrid. So yeah, all right, we got 3rd and 11 here. 2:45 left. Sorry. So yeah, I wouldn't play anything in the Salzburg Real Madrid match. I was going to potentially play an under, and then Real Madrid created 5.9 expected goals against Las Palmas over the weekend, and Salzburg obviously coming off that 6-0 drilling, and have just gotten drilled by any good team here in the Champions League. So, and Real Madrid has had some defensive issues. All right, deep ball down the side. He's wide open. That's caught. And there's your ball game. Ohio State's going to win the national title. Sad. Yeah, Endrick legacy match. All right, Girona. Girona. Girona +1 against AC Milan. Maybe. Cannasao, now at AC Milan. They've been. I just would like a bigger sample size of him because they're going from one of the two main extremes, right? They go from Fonseca, who just played incredibly open, to a guy who devalues defensive solidity over anything else. And now my internet doesn't want to load. Great. All right, well, maybe I'll go through this way. They came back to beat Inter in the Super Cup. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my internet is deciding not to load right now, and I really need to look up AC Milan's numbers. But honestly, I would just like a bigger sample size. I'm not the biggest fan of Girona, for being honest. They've been better. Girona, that is, as of late. They dealt with a lot of injuries in the beginning of the season, and it was kind of hard for Michu to play his actual style of what he wanted to do. But they've been improving as the season gone along. The underlying numbers have been pretty decent. Again, I just want a bigger sample size of Cannasao with AC Milan is more than anything. So I'm passing on that match. The only other match, put the other matches that you'd want in the chat right now. I'm going to do the other match that I had. Shakhtar and Brest. This is a 12:45 Eastern time match. So it's an island match. I like Shakhtar draw no bet. I think Stade de Brestois is. I think they're terrible. So in Ligue 1, they are 17th in non-penalty expected goals per 94. They're horrible offensively. And when I was doing a deep dive into them, really what it's kind of came down to is the fact that teams know that when they're at their best is when they're playing direct and playing down in wide areas and getting overloads there, and teams are just not letting them do it anymore. And they really don't have one way of playing, and it's kind of like, all right, we've been kind of figured out, and we don't really have another way to go about it. So that's a big problem here. And Shakhtar hasn't, they've been okay in the Champions League. Obviously they haven't been good, but what I mean by that is they have been okay when they've played some of the really, really big teams. Obviously they've gotten pummeled by Bayern, by Arsenal, and by Bayern. Yeah, just Bayern and Arsenal. But against Bologna, Young Boys, and PSV, they're pretty competitive. So I don't know how Brest is 7th. I don't understand it. They do have about an even expected goal differential, despite having +4. They've stolen a bunch of wins. They got a red card against Sturm Graz to open things up. They stole one against PSV where they were getting destroyed. And I think in the theory that I had was, regarding them, was basically, we are in the Champions League now, right? In Ligue 1, they face a lot of low blocks. They face a lot of teams who just not going to let them get out in transition. And now they're in a big competition like this against a lot of teams that will control possession, allow them to sit deep and just to counter and to sucker punch people. And it's been working, right? They're way better built for a competition like this than playing as a favorite a lot of time. Not now, but at least to begin the season in Ligue 1. So as far as Shakhtar is concerned, they've had a month to prepare for this match. They've been off for a while during the winter break in the Ukrainian Premier League. They've been very good from underlying perspective in that league, plus 0.84 expected goal differential per 90 minutes. Brest in Ligue 1 is at minus 0.52 per 90. That's not overall. That's per 90. So there's a 1.3 goal difference, right, between these two teams of what they're doing domestically. And if you look at UEFA coefficients, the gap between Ligue 1 and the Ukrainian Premier League is the same gap between Ligue 1 and the Premier League overall from a competitive standpoint, if you look at UEFA coefficients. So based on my projections, there's about a 0.7 goal difference between the Ukrainian Premier League and Ligue 1. So this is a neutral site, obviously, because Shakhtar has to play all their matches at a neutral site, unfortunately. But so I like Shakhtar quite a bit here at home. In the one match where they've been like the favorite and been in a good position against Young Boys, and they played pretty well in that match. So I like them quite a bit here. So Celtic destroy the little boys from Switzerland. I feel like me saying Young Boys, it's going to get clipped at some point and used against me. Yeah, probably. The team from Switzerland, they suck. Yeah, we've had a new manager for a while with them. Or do we have a third manager now, I guess? That's the question. From the team from Switzerland. A third manager now in charge for the team from Switzerland. Or no, is that their second? I can't remember. I can't keep track of how many managers they've had. But yeah, I've said this before. It doesn't really matter what formation they decide to play, whether they press high, mid block, high block, low block. Doesn't really matter. They're a horrible out of possession team. Horrible. You can play through the middle. You can play out wide. You generally can just do whatever you want. All right, Ohio State has 3rd and goal here. I mean, they're just going to kick a field goal, even if they don't get it here on 3rd and goal. And that's going to be your ball game, unfortunately. But yeah, it's I have it projected pretty close to where the market is. Like the market is correctly pricing Celtic as -1.5. I'll be honest though, I have a pretty big future on Celtic finishing 9 through 24. So a win here would do it would be massive, and it would pretty much. I mean, they're like minus. I can't remember, minus 900 or minus 1,000 to finish there right now, but this would pretty much seal it off, which would be nice. So yeah, I was looking at the over in that match potentially. Obviously, Young Boys have been eliminated from this competition. They have literally nothing to play for. I do have them to finish the bottom of the table at 8-1. That's a sweat going on right now with them and Slovan Bratislava. And RB Leipzig for that matter too. So, I mean, why doesn't Ohio State just kneel the ball here and kick a field goal? Why are they? Anyway, so yeah, I'm passing on that match. But Celtic, if you want to do some alts, I think that's a decent play. Why aren't they just kneeling the ball? Okay, there you go. He just fell down. All right. So yeah, Ohio State will run off about 30 seconds, 40 seconds off the clock here. I meant to say there'll be about 30 seconds left. Okay, Inter and Bayern and Feyenoord. Feyenoord is likely going to get trapped. And what I mean by trapped is a lot of teams. Bayern just suffocates them. They're able to counter press effectively. They overload the middle with so many guys that you have no choice but to play a low block and to play super compact. What that does is when you actually win the ball, Bayern already has guys in the center of the pitch to press you, and you have no escape route at all. And that's why you see Bayern's defensive numbers as good as they are. It's not because they're like an incredible low block defending team and like they can just kill you. It's like, no, it's because they can counterpress so effectively and nobody can break out in transition against them. I mean, Wolfsburg scored twice against them this weekend, but that was off half an expected goal, right? Like it wasn't, even when Bayern, slips up or, you might look at them and you might say, oh my gosh, like a team scored twice against them. Like almost more often than not, teams aren't really creating anything of value against them. So, yeah, I don't have anything in that match. I have, I have money line, spread, everything pretty much right in line with where the market has it. All right, let's see if Ohio State can kick the field goal for the win here, even if they miss it. I mean, It would be nice to see them miss it at least, right? And at least give Notre Dame a chance here to throw an interception. Got it. Ohio State's your national champion. All right. Well, that sucks. Good for the Big Ten. Good for the Big Ten. Good for the Big Ten. Although I hate them. All right. Inter against Sparta Prague. I thought I had that pretty close to the market as well. Yeah, I'm right in line with where the market is on that. So I'd pass on that one. Inter's really good. I like Inter a lot. I think they're very good. I think that hits about every match on Wednesday. See what Arsenal looks like against Dinamo Zagreb. They need some positive momentum. You know, Arsenal's kind of struggling right now. Okay, so why doesn't, if anybody has any overarching questions, put them in the chat right now. I'll just do a couple announcements, not important announcements, but just whatever's coming. Substack this week, Champions League notes for Tuesday's matches will be out late tonight, so you can read it Tuesday morning. Same thing it'll be out probably late for Wednesday's matches. It'll be out Tuesday, hopefully afternoon, if not late night. So you guys can read that. Just notes on every single match, or how I think it's going to go. Premier League notes as well. Those have seemed to be a hit with people. So I'm going to keep doing those. Normal weekend best bets. Next live stream will probably be Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. For the, you know what, we'll do weekend best bets, and I'll hit the Europa League there on Thursday if anybody has any questions then. Right, I'll be more prepared for that for the Europa League by then. I kind of want to just get Champions League all ready to go for this week. I hopefully will have after the, or maybe before, well, probably not before, after the league phase is finished, I will have hopefully have the tournament format simulated out for the Champions League. That's my hope, at least. Obviously, that's going to be crazy the next week. Trying to decide whether I'll do a live watch along for that final day of the Champions League. If you guys want me to do it, I'd be more than happy to do it. It wouldn't really be a betting thing. It'd just be kind of like, this is crazy. There's just like so much going on at once. It'd just be like information overload. So it could be kind of fun. So yeah, that's what's coming up this week. Nothing real crazy. Just kind of a normal busy week here in the world of soccer. All right, questions. Biggest implications this week besides City and PSG. I mean, I would say Atletico and Leverkusen is pretty important for top 8. I mean, if Leverkusen loses that match, there is a likelihood that they can drop right around that 8th spot. And I believe Leverkusen, they finished with Sparta Prague, so they at least have a favorable match beyond that. And Atletico finishes at Salzburg, right? So I mean, it's an important match. I would say that. You see, I mean, Juventus and I was going to say, what was the other match I was looking at that was kind of important? I mean, you could say Monaco as well. Monaco and Aston Villa is pretty important. I think, what will happen, you could say City and PSG obviously this week because, loser is basically on like, or even if they draw, it's on like a they're on like death row for not making the top 24, which would just be completely detrimental for both of those clubs, given the fact that they are owned by countries in the Middle East. The amount of money they spend, it's just like unthinkable just to finish top 24 of a 36 team format when teams like Club Brugge and Brest and these minnows are right above them. So I'd say that's probably the most important one. If Real Madrid loses, that'd be hilarious as well. But I may do a live stream, just kind of like, watch along. Let's go through the chaos together. That might be fun. Will City finish top 4? Will City finish? If you're asking me today, on this day, no, would be my answer to that question. Now, I have City in terms of my simulations. I have not updated them yet on the weekend, so they'll probably go to 45% or something like that. I have them at 41%. Like the book odds put them at minus 175 and minus 200 in that range. But their court date is also the beginning of January here. So, I'm tired of trying to guess what the Premier League actually does with these point deductions, but in any case, you know what I mean? Like, the court date is still there. It hasn't changed. So, will City finish top 4? I say no. I say Nottingham Forest and Chelsea finish top 4. That's what I say. Now, what would really hurt me, because every single week I've shown value on them and the number just continues to decrease and I'm too much of a coward to actually play it, what would kill me is if Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest both finish top 4. I would still cash a couple bets on them in terms of futures, but if both those guys finish top 4 and just every single week they were just sitting there at 33 and 20 to 1 a month ago, and I was just sitting there being like, well, I have them at 10 and 8 to 1, I probably should play them, and just never did it. That'll hurt me. At least I'll get a little bit of money out of it. When will best bets for Europa League come out? Probably Wednesday. Probably Wednesday after the Champions League concludes. Would be my guess. If Barcelona drops points against Atalanta next week, that match. Talk about a total. Should be 4. That total should be 4 in that match. Yeah, that'll be crazy. Just man-to-man pressing all over everywhere, high lines, and just total football. Just total football. All right. I think that will do it. Any more questions? And put them in the chat right now. Otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap this thing up. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. So yeah, Champions League notes. Please, they'll be on my Substack. Give me some feedback. Tell me if you like them. Tell me if you don't. It's something I'm trying out. It's something I enjoy doing. Just kind of going through matches and kind of analyzing them and seeing how things play out. If you find them helpful, please let me know, because I would enjoy to keep doing them. But also, if people are like, hey, man, I don't care about these suck, please tell me that so I don't waste hours and hours of my time doing that. But those will be out this week. Number of best bets articles, updated Premier League and simulations and projections will probably be out tomorrow. But yeah, if that's it, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Enjoy the Champions League this week. Only 2 more weeks left of the league phase, and then we are into the knockouts, which should be a ton of fun. So have a great night, everybody. And as always, good luck with your bets.